Is this thing working? It is. Good. I think we're good. All right, so today we're going to be working on some miscellaneous stuff that I've got to do on Alchemortis. I did get the combat log basically finished. And finished in this context just means it's mostly functional and it has the most useful information. Does not necessarily mean that I am done with it. But, you know, I showed it off on Discord. People said that it seems better than what existed currently. So hopefully that serves at least as a good base to continue building on top of. But I'm going to be done with it for now because I'm ready to be done with it. I have other things that I want to do. So we're going to do those. But before I get into it, I want to remind everyone that Alchemortis is available for wishlisting. So yeah, give it a wishlist if you haven't already. I would very much appreciate that. You can also support the game on Patreon. If you subscribe for at least 1 month at the top tier, I will send you an Alchemortis Steam key for the full game. And your name will be listed in the in-game Alchemortis credits. The other thing you could do is you can purchase one of my Udemy courses. I think Udemy is having problems. Anyway, these will teach you how to build complete games in the Godot engine. So those are all the ways you could support me, but you can also support by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, following on Twitch, all that good stuff. Okay. I'll show you guys the new combat log, but first let's say hello to everyone. Hello, Wooius. First, I'm sorry I can't highlight your message, Wooius, because my software to do that was not running by the time your message came through, so sorry I can't highlight your message, but welcome. Hello, Ninja Link, good morning to you. Hundikukin, welcome, good to see you. Thank you for the IDR 10,000 snup bill. It's very much appreciated as always. Welcome back to the stream. Good to see you. Yummers. I've started a hybrid internship, so I actually have time to pop in some days. Very nice. That's cool. Welcome back, G. Whittington. Good to see you again. What do you think of the idea of basing effects on the frame rate? I don't know what you mean. Basing effects on the frame rate. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by that, if you want to elaborate. Hello, V, welcome back. Good to see you as always. I'm just too fast, yeah. Okay, so I've got the combat summary working, and it's complete with a new icon, so I could start. Here's the combat summary as a little eyeball. And click it. You can see the in-progress stats, which I may want to actually indicate that, but you can open this combat summary anytime after combat has started, and it will show you the snapshot of what's currently going on. I also made it so that way it stores the snapshot of the artifact state as well, and that's actually working quite well because you can see that this Iron Gauntlet says it deals 0 damage because the Iron Gauntlet gains damage when I defeat an enemy. But also you can see that the Broken Sundial has added this increased cooldown by 8 seconds here to this training dummy. And so if I look at this combat summary now, those artifacts are applied there. Now I may want to show the artifacts on this screen as well, because basically the way that this screen works is it creates a whole snapshotted and sandboxed version of the combat board. And the reason for that is because when I end this combat here and I start making changes to my board and then I open the combat summary, this has to show me the state of everything when the combat ended, right? So this should also still show that this has 0 damage from the Iron Gauntlet, even though the Iron Gauntlet here says that the current damage is 1. Why is that happening? Because the Iron Gauntlet was giving this item 0 damage when this combat ended, right? So I had to do a bunch of work to snapshot all of this to make sure that this is nice and sandboxed away from the main game logic, but also get those artifacts and whatnot to apply properly in this context, but as well as in this context, right? So anyway, and then the combat summary, it just shows you an overall damage dealt, damage applied, That doesn't seem right to me, that damage dealt. There's no way I dealt 10,000 damage. I wonder if it's counting... I wonder if it's counting necrosis. That might be counting necrosis. Maybe we'll take a look at that really quick and see. But then you got a couple of tables down here. Your summary, enemy summary, and then this will list out all of the items on each board, and it will give you a summary of the damage dealt as well as the status applied here. And this can be, you know, this can be built on top of as well. So one of the things I'm thinking is making these individually clickable, or making this table sortable as well. Make these individually clickable, and you could bring up like a separate dialogue window that has like all of the notable events for that specific item. So like how many times did it crit, or how many times did it execute, when did it execute, stuff like that. This damage dealt is really not correct. Maybe we can try to fix that really quick. I wonder... Combat Stats Manager. Let's just see if we can fix this really quick. On damage dealt tracked. If entry dot type is equal to damage type necrotic, we are just going to return. Okay. I had this problem with the status too. It was whenever necrosis was being applied to the enemy, it was counting as the enemy applying the status effect. And then apparently the damage was counted as the player dealing damage. Necrosis is just weird, so we're just gonna ignore necrosis in the combat stats. So let's see. What I should see here is 0 damage dealt by the player. 39 damage dealt. How in the world did I do 39 damage? Oh, right, because this is summing up all the damage, it's not just physical damage. So I applied 39 poison stacks, which in turn dealt 39 damage, right? So I could probably make that clearer. But that seems to be correct now. At least it's not 10,000 damage, so. All right, fix necrosis counting as player damage. All right, so anyway, we could get into what I want to do today, which is a bunch of miscellaneous like improvements, refactors, some visual presentation improvements. I want to update the Iron Gauntlet. I don't like how the Iron Gauntlet works after thinking about it a little bit, so I'm gonna change how it works. I'm gonna add headers to all panels. There's an animation bug with the inventory and a quick move bug. There's a quick move bud. Anyway. Here we go again. Hello, O Pacheco Studio, welcome back. What would you say the high level status of the game is? It's like 70% complete. It's like 70% complete, I would say. Of course, the last 10% is 90% of the work, so that means that we're like 20% of the way. No, I'm kidding. The game is basically like almost finalized in terms of the systems. And now it's just a matter of doing content and polish and quality of life stuff. Cool layout, thank you. The opponent's maximum health points correspond to the FPS. Oh, I see, like you're saying make that an actual mechanic. There's a game called Weird RPG for people who are fans of Iron Pineapple. I believe he played that. And Weird RPG was kind of like that. Like it would tie certain stats to like your hardware. So if it detected you had a really good GPU, it would like either buff you or debuff you. Or, you know, you had to like make some noise into the microphone to make like your spells go off. So it's an interesting gimmick for sure. I still don't know if I'm misunderstanding that though. But it is a funny gimmick, so I think it would be interesting. You and your game inspired me to make my own auto battler. I'm making a game where you create your own monster from different body parts and then they fight. Love your work. Awesome. Thank you so much for the 200. Somebody told me what this currency was last time and I don't remember. But thank you so much for the 200 of your local currency. That's very generous. Thank you, thank you. And I'm happy to hear that you were inspired by my work. I always like to hear about that. Yeah, please feel free to post your game if you make progress or when you make progress on it in the Discord, in the Firebelly server. Frankenstein, yeah. Bone Right. Oh, that's a good one. Make my own game too. Very nice. Yeah, anyone who's making a game, feel free to share it in the Firebelly Discord. Using Unity. Saw an interview you did on Dream Dev, was really cool. Thank you, Jahar. Glad you liked it. Unity harder to learn than Godot, I think, right? I don't know. I think engines are just engines. Like, they all have their own learning curves. I don't think there's really such a thing as an easy engine to learn. Maybe there's an engine that is easier to get started with in terms of like getting something working on screen, but every engine has its own little quirks and ways of doing things, and you know, it's all of them have a learning curve. Okay, the first thing that we want to do is we want to get rid of all the pass-through controls in this G-dang game. Now, how am I going to figure out where those are? Okay, so it looks like we got one in the options menu. Right, because this is sliding in. So we get the panel container there, delete the pass-through control here. We've got a screen dimmer. All right, so we got the panel container. So wherever the panel container is being animated, position node off screen. I don't need to do this anymore. I just can't remember if this is going to the left or to the right. Offset screen position, get window width. Oh, it's to the right. Okay. Actually, I think I want to move the margin container instead of the panel container. Is the panel container just being animated? Yeah. So we're going to get rid of the panel container reference. And we're going to change this margin container. This is going to have an offset transform with visuals only off. And then what we're going to do is we want to tween control offset transform position ratio of margin container. This one, margin container. I should probably grab a reference to that node first. Private margin container. Margin container dot offset transform position ratio is equal to vector 2.right. We don't need this line anymore. Okay, and then this one, dismiss. We don't need this. We can do tween control offset transform position ratio. I'm actually going to change this. This is going to do vector 2.left. And this would be the margin container. Okay, so that's the options menu. Let's give that a whirl. Hello, Clickertail. Welcome, welcome. Godot has less or no bloat and clutter. Hello, Fozzy Don. Welcome. Okay, so settings, that comes in just fine. Cancel, it goes away. I don't know why these buttons are getting stuck in like the down state. I think it's focus related if I'm not mistaken. But yeah. Sorry, give me 1 second. The dog is up to something. BRB. Sorry about this. All right, sorry about that. We're back. I think Godot is more regarded as easier to get into, but both can be pretty complex when you get into the weeds of things, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like Godot, yeah, I think Godot is one of those engines where it's easy to get something on screen pretty quickly, and even working with a script, but there are a lot of confusing elements. You know, I think the UI system, the control node system can be a little bit hard to wrap your head around at first. The way that, you know, input events are propagated through this tree, signals throw people for a loop quite often. So, you know, it's one thing to get something on screen. It's another thing to like use the engine in the way that it wants to be used, if that makes sense. Like, I think one of the things about Godot is that it's very easy to get yourself into a spaghetti mess. Especially if you don't, like, you're not familiar with how Godot works. But maybe that's true of every engine. Okay, so options menu is done. Let's take a look at another pass-through control. Pause menu. So we kind of got the same deal here. What is this screen rect for? Oh, that's for fading out. Okay, so we'll pass this one here. Or move that one there. Get rid of that. This actually doesn't need to be a unique name. Okay, so we've got the margin container now. So we'll get rid of the panel container, change this to margin container. Okay. Position node off screen. Again, what we want to do here is offset transform on, visuals only off. Margin container dot offset transform position ratio is equal to vector 2.right. Tween control offset transform position ratio of margin container. We'll let that do its thing. And then we got to do this one. Margin container, tween offset transform position ratio, vector 2.left. Excellent. I'm not even going to test that one. No, just kidding. I'm like 99.9% sure it's going to work, but have to do my due diligence, right? Okay, it works. Imagine that. I'm absolutely shocked. Okay. Alchemy container. Oh, I still have a pass-through control in the alchemy container. Where is this one? This pass-through control here. Oh, interesting. Board container. Excuse me. Board container dot resized, onboard container resized, shadow board position custom minimum size, shadow board position dot size. Why do I need the pass-through control? So the shadow board position, what this basically is this is a control that matches the exact size of this board container. And the reason why that's there is this shadow board position is configured to be exactly in the middle of this alchemy container. And so when this whole thing is animating out, the board will slide down. And the way it knows which position to slide it down to is it essentially matches this shadow board position. So this pass-through control, I think, is just allowing this board container to be animated. Now here's the thing though, I don't know if I need that to be a pass-through control. Where's my board container? Oh, here. Oh, it's not even moving the container, it's just moving the board itself. So it's actually just moving the board 2D and not the container. So what in the heck is the point of this pass-through control then? I think that might just be an artifact of a previous approach. I think I can just remove that. So the shadow board position is actually just like noting or storing, or it's like a placeholder for the top left board position. So this board can be moved down to the shadow board position pretty easily. Interesting. Also, why is this? Oh no, that's fine, right? Yeah. So, interesting. Kind of tempted to rework this to use the offset transform stuff, but I don't want to get into the weeds of this in particular. So I'm just going to delete the pass-through control and see if that has any bad effects. I don't think it will though. We're going to need to test it with Death Orchid. Here we go. Put that in there. Okay, that seems to be correct. And then if I put add item skeleton dragon, put that there, put that there. If I just throw all those things in the pot, what happens with the board here? It seems to be working. Oh, I can't. Something's interfering with my mouse now. Let's look at the debugger. Alchemy container board control. Oh, I didn't actually delete the pass-through control. There we go. How did I not delete that? Anyway, so I delete the pass-through control, everything works, that goes back to its position. Check this out, repeat, skeleton, dragon, 100. Bam! Okay. Just give it another test to make sure it's working. Yeah, I think it's fine. Okay. I'll take it. So we can delete the pass-through control from there. Let's refresh this one. Board inspector. Right, so these little drawers and whatnot need to be removed. So we got the root container here. We just do offset transform visual only off. Okay. We get rid of, well, actually we keep the root container, but this needs to change. Root container dot offset transform position ratio is equal to vector 2 dot right. Okay. And then this one, we want to tween control offset transform position ratio. Vector 2, 0, that's correct. This one needs to be vector 2 dot right. Cool. I think that should work. Let's give that one a test. Chat is awfully quiet. It is a Monday though. I don't blame you. I do not blame you. The other thing that I want to do is get rid of this. We're going to do screen dimmer dot clicked plus equals to just fix some things here. We're just going to call play out unconditionally in here. And we call play out there. On screen dimmer clicked. And then we can get rid of this margin containers. Mouse handling. I'm just trying to streamline everything. I don't want to be in a situation where all my UI scenes are handling things differently. So we're just going to put in a little bit of effort here and make sure everything is working nicely. One weird thing is that if I do this, that gets frozen. Why is that not behind the pause menu? That's the question. Well, I can resolve that later. If bringing up pause menu while board inspector is playing out, nothing can be clicked. So I think that's just a matter of getting my canvas layers correct, but that can be handled later. All right, so card inspector is the other one, character information, card upgrade. Oh gosh, we got a lot of pass-through controls here. Well, there's only 5 more classes to fix. But we'll get rid of all this stuff. All right, card inspector. All right, this should be the same deal basically. So we've got our root container. We'll delete the pass-through control. We've got our screen dimmer. This margin container needs to have its mouse set to ignore. Okay. We get rid of the margin. Oh, did I not get rid of the margin container reference in my board inspector? Yeah, I don't want this anymore. Yeah, we get rid of that. So actually my screen dimmer, I need another. I need to set this to ignore when I'm dimming out the screen dimmer component. So that way the mouse events for things underneath the dimmer will be accepted immediately. Okay, screen dimmer dot clicked plus equals call play out here. Okay. I got to change the root container. Offset transform on, visuals only off. Root container dot offset transform position ratio is equal to vector 2 dot right. Tween offset transform position ratio. Vector 2.0 is correct. This goes away. All right, let's give that one a shot as well. I see you have some playtests for the games. Do you plan to have a demo on Steam though? Yes, there will be a demo on Steam. The demo probably won't arrive on Steam until, well, maybe I shouldn't say exactly what the plan is, but the demo on Steam will arrive when the game is basically complete. Because we do, like, obviously as part of a marketing effort, we want to take advantage of a Steam Next Fest as well. So my guess, and I haven't we haven't really planned this out with the publisher, but my guess is that the demo will become available around the time of the next Steam Next Fest. And by that point, the game should be in really, really good shape. Like, by that point, it should basically be done. I'm from Vietnam, and it's a bit difficult for me to write English using Google Translate. I'm sorry. But welcome, Hoang Viet. Welcome. Hope I said your name correctly. Glad to have you here. Hello, Mel's. How you doing? So this one is process always. So that means that when I pause, it's fine. So maybe the same should be true of the... Interesting. Well, we will figure that out later. Anyway, card inspector, done. Card upgrade container. I'm gonna get rid of this pass-through control. This one has to be animated a little bit differently. We're gonna position node off screen board. Tween property board node 2D dot property name dot position board. Okay. We're gonna have to test this one. I believe upgrade is event type 7. Yeah, event type 7. So I'm gonna change a couple of things in here first. First of all, let's get rid of override player board dimensions because that's annoying me now. And we'll do this one. Just saw you had a publisher for this. Congrats on that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hello, Emerson. Welcome back. Hello, Biokara. I would love to be as skilled as you in writing code, but GDScript is super intimidating. So I'm learning Python first. How long did it take you to actually understand code and start creating your small projects? I don't know. My memory is fuzzy because so I've been doing programming since I was 14-ish, around that time. And I'm 31 now. So I don't know exactly how long it took. I would say it takes a long time, right? Like writing code is difficult. It requires a new way of thinking about problems, a new way of breaking down problems, a way of describing problems, right? Because that's essentially what programming is. It's a way of breaking down problems into their smallest parts and then writing the logic that solves each of those tiny problems, right? So you've got this big thing that you want to accomplish, and the only way to accomplish it is to write a bunch of these minuscule bits of logic that add up. The sum of their parts adds up to accomplishing that goal that you want to accomplish. And that's just a really hard way of thinking. That's a really hard thing to wrap your mind around. And it's especially hard when you don't know what language features are available to you. You keep forgetting the syntax and all that stuff. So all I would say is it takes a long time. But you basically just gain the experience, right? You gain the experience by doing it over and over again. You solve a problem, you solve a bunch of problems. You'll start to internalize how you're supposed to express things and break things down. And I would say, if you spend, I don't know, if I were to guess, if you spend a good year of constant practice and constantly writing your own stuff, you should feel reasonably confident, reasonably comfortable within a year. Again, if you're doing constant effort. For some people, that will be faster. I definitely know people who went from zero coding knowledge to being able to make projects in 6 months or 3 months. No problems. But some people, it'll take longer. But I think if you think around the timeline of a year, maybe plus or minus, 6 months, that's probably how long it would take. Are you using Obsidian for anything else other than a Kanban board? Yes, I use Obsidian for writing my video scripts, for taking random notes. Basically just anything that I need in text format, I put in Obsidian. Once you learn Python, GDScript is simple. Yeah, the language, the syntax and learning all the language features and stuff is not really the hard part, right? The hard part is figuring out how to use these bajillion things that are available to you to actually solve the problems and implement the features you want to implement. That's the hard part, right? But the good news is that, as Mel's is suggesting, that programming fundamentals are basically universal. Once you understand how to write code in one language, it's basically going to be the same in every other language, the fundamentals are going to be the same. You're welcome. Okay, this seems to be working, so we will ship it. Okay. So that one's good. All right, so character information. What do we have here? Again, I think this is one of those things where I want to remove that and then put this one up here, delete this pass-through control. And now it's just a matter of getting this animated. Yeah, so margin container, so I need to do this too. Margin container. All right, play in tween, control, offset, transform, position, ratio of margin container to vector 2.0. And then I think that's it. Gonna have to do my due diligence though. So let's turn off skip menu. I need to redo the tutorial in this game too. That's the next big thing I need to figure out, is how to improve the player experience at the start. Okay, so that's going in very nicely. If I go back, yeah, that's fine. Okay. All right, so that's done. We have the same thing to do with the difficulty information. All right, so this panel container goes here. We delete this. We unmark this as unique name. We take this margin container, offset transform on, visuals only off. Then we go here, change this to margin container. There we go. I don't need to do that deferred anymore. We'll just set this to vector 2.left. That should just work. And then in here, target position, I don't care about that anymore. I don't care about that anymore. Gosh, 4.7 is so good. 4.7, Godot 4.7 is amazing. Look at all this extra code I can just, oh, it's so simple. I can just massacre code. When I was working as a software engineer, I had a reputation for being the guy that loved to delete code. So whenever there was a time to have like a major refactor come up, invariably I would always get those tasks, and then I would push a PR that has like 1,000 lines deleted. It felt so good. I like deleting code more than I like writing code, honestly. Because if you can do the same thing with more elegant and concise code, that's just like, ugh. It's a beautiful thing. Okay. More work on purging pass-through control. We'll just keep committing this as we go. Only a handful more. Only a handful more. Okay. Why are these in a pass-through control? These are not... Yeah, this is not even used, so we can get rid of player status. I don't think that we need the pass-through control anymore. I don't think that we need any of that stuff. I started game development in Python using libraries like Pygame. It was really frustrating and difficult because I had to do the heavy math, but once I moved to Godot, it felt much easier. Yeah. I went to college for game development, which I do not recommend you do, but freshman year, that's what they had us working in, is they got us Python and Pygame. Which, you know, like, look, I understand the importance of teaching students the fundamentals of code, but if I was going to have a game development focused degree, I would probably get students right into an engine rather than like, I don't know, Pygame or whatever. But I am not the dean of the school, so, or the board or whoever decides the curriculum. Let's just make sure this works. Yeah, I don't even know why those pass-through controls existed, to be honest. Oh, we still have... Oh, we still have a pass-through control somewhere in here. Oh, oh yeah, this whole thing is a pass-through control. Right, so the widget root, yeah, that's fine. So the widget root now, we need to set this to offset transform. All right, where are we animating this? Yeah, this can just become tween control offset transform position ratio of widget root vector 2 dot down. And then I think in here we probably want to set widget root dot transform offset, whatever it's called, offset transform position ratio. This should probably be vector 2 dot down here. Okay. We're almost done. I use Visual Studio. I'm curious why Visual Studio Code. I like using Vim motions. Maybe that's enough of a reason. More deletes and additions is always nice. Usually means refactoring. Yeah. Why do I use VS Code? I just like VS Code. I think it's plenty. It's got plenty of what I need. It's got a lot of extensions. Yeah, I just like it. Okay, well that seems to be working. All right, what's the next one? Welcome to the stream, by the way, Care Games Inc. Good to see you. Logo control, logo margin container. Get rid of this. Logo control. I think I just need the logo margin container. Offset transform on. Get rid of this. Actually, maybe I do want to keep the logo control. I'm doing this animation a little bit differently. So we'll change this one to offset transform on. We'll just change the logo control. Offset transform position is equal to vector2.up. Tween offset transform. Okay. Is that it? Let's see. Oh, we got an error. Oh, because I removed the unique name from that. Visual Studio for Godot, like for C# usage? Yeah, I think so. I'm sad I have a year to earn money. If I spend that time making a game, I likely won't get a job from it. But I don't really want some soul-sucking remote corporate job. Well, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Okay. So that one's working. Welcome back to the stream, by the way, Monkey Software. Always good to see you. Okay, I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break now. When I come back, we will wrap these up. And then I can delete the pass-through control, and then I can move on to these other things that I want to address in here. So yeah. But anyway, I'll be right back in 3 minutes, and we will continue on. Okay, I'm back. Not that I would use either just because I've been using GDScript, but I wonder between Visual Studio and JetBrains Writer, which out of the box works better with Godot? Well, I think Godot C#, I mean, it's just a C# solution. So any C# IDE is going to work out of the box, meaning that you load up the solution and assuming you've got the right .NET version installed, yada, yada, you know, you could just build the project. Like you should get all of your IntelliSense, you'd be able to build it, you know, look at the NuGet packages, add NuGet packages, all that stuff. But in terms of like Godot specific features, I think, and I'm not sure about this, but I think I've been seeing, you know, various plugins that Writer has been adding specifically for Godot. I'm not sure if there's something similar in Visual Studio. So this is my impression anyway, that Writer has a lot more like plugins you can get for Godot that make working with Godot specifically very nice. But you know, at the end, like I said, it's just a C# solution. So any IDE that you have that supports C# would just work. So yeah. All right, confirmation dialog. Here we go. I didn't realize I was using these pass-through controls in so many places. We'll get rid of this. Delete that. Go here. Okay, we grab the margin container. Ignore that. Okay. Margin container dot offset transform position ratio is equal to vector 2 dot right. Margin container tween control offset transform position ratio. Margin container vector 2 dot left. And then I need to set this here and there. All right, let's see what happens. If I do abandon run, that's a confirmation dialog. We abandon the run, fade out. There we go. Go back to the menu. I think that's basically it for that one. Okay, 5 more files, one of which is the pass-through control script. So we've got 4 more scenes. We got 4 more scenes to go. Fortunately, this is relatively formulaic, so I can just go and edit all this stuff. All right, margin container. Margin container. Okay. Let's give that a shot. Thank you, Hiradoris. I appreciate that. Welcome to the stream. Okay, that is also working. Okay, 3 more scenes. Resurrection Stone container. I think this is going to be the same deal as the upgrade. So we don't need the pass-through control. We delete that. Then we can just... I don't think I need the board container. I think I just need the board. So this would be board, tween position, board. I think that's it. Resurrection Stone is event type 14. Back to the grind. What's going on today? Just doing some cleanup, getting rid of the pass-through control. I've got some other things that I also want to get clean up as well. Some bugs to fix. So we'll see. We will see. Okay. That seems to be working. Did I not get rid of the pass-through control? Oh, there's another one here. Oh. That's unfortunate. Is there a clever way to do this one? Oh, it's not even animating this control. I don't know why I did that as a pass-through control then. Let's delete that. That should just work, actually. Just delete the pass-through control and we're good to go. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. We are good with that then. Run overview. Let's see what we got going on in here. Margin container. HBox container. Pass-through control. So the panel container goes here. We delete the pass-through control. That's a little bit unfortunate. What I may do here is I may, because it's not going to be a perfect like left, if I set this, if I set this position ratio to -1, it's going to be off. It's going to be on the screen still because of that margin. So I might just do like 1.1. I'll just fudge it a little bit. I don't really feel like restructuring the scene to get that to work. So where's my panel container here? Let's see. Offset transform position ratio is equal to vector 2.left times 1.1. And then this tween control transform position ratio. Okay, let's run this one and see if that works. Yeah, that's fine. All right. We've got one more to do. Unlock menu. Oops. Unlock menu, here we go. Animation root. No, I'm just gonna slide down the whole margin container, I think. Delete this. Margin container. Do I even need this animation root anymore? Oh. I suppose I do. Okay, well that's fine. We'll just call this root instead. This margin container will be offset transform visuals only. Yeah, we're gonna change this to margin container. Margin container. Actually, yeah, that should work. That should work. We're gonna change this mouse to ignore. Okay. Alrighty. Margin container dot transform position ratio is equal to vector2 dot up. Okay. Tween control offset position ratio margin container, and then tween control offset transform position ratio margin container vector2 dot down. Okay. That should be it. I need to check. That's all the instances of pass-through control I could find with just the search. But now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go pass-through control here. Let's reveal this in File Explorer. I'm just gonna look at the pass-through control. It's in util. Pass-through control UID. So we're gonna search for this. That is nowhere in the project. Okay, so, and we don't have any more references and scenes to the pass-through control. So hopefully that means what I can do is I can just delete. Actually, can I do this? View owners. No owners found. Okay, delete. All right, finalize removal of pass-through control. We are done with that. Okay. So now we can move on to some fun stuff. Hello, Naxot, welcome. It's impressive to see your consistency each day. I know you have a whole board of things to do. Do you set out each day with specific goals or like general things to pick from each day? Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I have whatever's in my to-do list as the stuff that I want to get done in like the near future. And then I just kind of take items from that list as I feel like working on them. I don't really try to like go in order or anything. Mostly this is just like, I need to get these done as like my next efforts, but what order I do these things in is not super important. Because some days, some days I don't feel like doing a big refactor or hunting down bugs, right? Some days I want to just make content or do some art. Some days I just want to add some features that I know will be easy to add, right? So I just kind of take it day by day, just decide what I want to work on that day or in that moment, but I try to keep what I choose to work on limited to options from this column here. So yeah. It's on the 23rd of June. Uh-oh. Sorry about that, but that's all right. Yeah, it's the third Sunday in June in the United States. So thank you for the Prime subscription, by the way, Naxon. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's very generous. Hello, Sonia with Koromon. Welcome back. Good to see you. Hello, Rin. How are you doing? Do you use Visual Studio because Godot can get a bit cluttered? I use VS Code, and I mean the main reason I use VS Code is because Godot doesn't have built-in like C# support. Like you can edit the C# scripts in the Godot editor, but there's no IntelliSense or anything because it's not a C# IDE. So if you're going to work in C# and Godot, like having a C# IDE is a requirement, basically. It's usually like this in other countries, but Poland decided to be different. So I want to redo the Iron Gauntlet. Right now, the Iron Gauntlet grants damage based on combat victories won. And there's a couple of problems with that. One, the Iron Gauntlet becomes less and less of an appealing choice the further in you get to the game. Because if you get the Iron Gauntlet in the 3rd region, there's no time to build up the power. So it's basically useless unless you get it early on. And the other thing too is that, you know, there's just a fixed number of combats, and like the number of combats you can encounter are quite variable depending on the path you take. So I guess the goal of this item was to kind of incentivize you to do combats, but I don't think that's really serving its purpose. So I'm going to change the Iron Gauntlet so that it does 1 additional damage per item on your board. I'm going to keep the only minion restriction. So it's only going to apply if you have 1 minion on your board, but I'm going to make it deal damage equal to the number of items on your board. I think that will be a little bit better, because then you could take it at any point in the game and build around a minion. But also there's an incentive here too to use a bunch of small items if you want to like maximize the damage. So I think that's kind of interesting. But we're going to change it. We're going to change it. Cool. All right, so I probably just need to get rid of this persistent state. What do you think about this? Oh, how am I actually going to do this? This might actually be tricky. Is it going to be tricky? Actually, I don't think so. So I get rid of the persistent state, I get rid of this, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of this. Yeah. Okay. Hello, Courier Games. Welcome. Good to see you. So I actually need to create a new damage ability. new composed ability. Ability configuration. Query target provider is equal to query target provider dot create options dot query directions is equal to board inventory component dot query directions dot entire board. Okay, var dynamic damage is equal to new dynamic magnitude ability. Query target provider, and then new damage 0. We put the query target provider in there, dynamic damage in there. Scaling function, no scaling function. Deal 0, description utils dot, or description keywords, damage per query target provider dot to query string template 1 force card singular true. Description template parameters func. Yeah, we'll just do const int base damage, and this would be ability gauntlet. What? Okay. That's good. Set description prefix. Description template parameters. Inner ability description wrapper from simple damage. I think that's it. Build. I started playing with Godot recently. I really like Writer because of the integration with Godot that it provides. Yeah, I've heard good things about it. I had a great experience demoing my game last weekend. A little kid came up and played it and had a great time, gave me a lot of great feedback. That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. Really cool. It's always a great feeling when somebody loves your game. Adds the following ability to any minion item. Any minion if it is the only minion on the board. And then we'll do this. 0. Okay. Run the translations again. All right, let's see. Oh, I want to do exclude prefix true. I was afraid at first because kids are low-key scary. They give super honest feedback. That's true. How do you keep track of all the items and interactions they might have? Oh, that's the neat part. I don't. I mean, I don't mean to be flippant, but it's actually kind of true. Like, when I run the playtests, people constantly find interactions that I didn't even think about. But I think that's kind of the point of the game, right? The point of the game is I'm basically creating like a sandbox where you can do this click is not working. I'm just creating a bunch of systems in a sandbox where you can basically just find a bunch of abilities and like mix and match them with the alchemy system and like do all this reagent stuff. And so it's not really possible for me to keep track of every possible interaction in my head, because like I'm just creating, like I said, I'm just creating a sandbox, and like you as a player, it's up to you to like play with the mechanics and get things working in weird ways. And I think that's the draw of the game, right? It's like I don't have to explicitly design those things. Like the gameplay is very emergent in the sense that it's completely up to the player how they're gonna get their interactions to work and whatnot. And of course, you know, interactions crop up from the play tests and whatnot where something is obviously too powerful. But then I can just tweak those individual things, right? I don't have to, like for example, the fairy wings is too powerful, so I just tweaked the fairy wings, right? Things like the phylactery are too powerful because they scale indefinitely. So, you know, I just have to like do targeted fixes for the things that are very obviously powerful and very obviously easy to win with. And then that's what I'll do, right? I'll just find the outliers and fix them. But for the most part, everything else is just, you know, everything else is just vibes based. Okay, so let's see if this even works. So we do this, we do this. Let's also do this. Okay, so this should deal 2 damage. Oh, I can't even test it because I don't have the training dummy on. It's a great and rare feeling. It is, yeah. It amazes me how you remember all this stuff, but it's this same with me after working on the same project for ages. Yeah. Especially like once you, like I have a framework for my ability system. So like once I've done it, you know, 150 times or whatever, you know, it just becomes, it's like second nature almost. And I also have other abilities that I can reference to. Like if I don't remember exactly how to implement something, I can always go look. So let's see. Skeleton Commander dealt 4 damage. 2 damage for each undead item. Yeah, so that's right. So it dealt 2 damage from the Iron Gauntlet. Perfect. And then if I look at the combat summary, it should have that there still. Cool. I think that should make the Iron Gauntlet a little bit more interesting. Okay. Now, maybe I should reintroduce an artifact that scales based off of combat, but I don't want it to be the Iron Gauntlet because the Iron Gauntlet just felt like not useful. Most of the time I demo my game, it's just other devs roasting the hell out of me. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's done. I hate art. Any suggestion? I mean, there's really only 2 options. Well, there's 3 options. You can get asset packs and use those. You can hire somebody to do your art, or you can get over your hatred of art and do it anyway. Those are the only options you have, really. Interaction should be dynamic. If they were all hard-coded, it would be boring. Right, yeah. Emergent gameplay. Yeah, I think it's emergent gameplay. Yeah, so the idea is like I'm creating systems, right? And the systems like have very clear ways in which they work, and then it's up to the player to leverage the systems to create their own builds. Like I'm not sitting here designing like set pieces from like an RPG, right? It's just here's how the systems work, here's how the alchemy works. Have fun. Here's a whole bunch of things you can play with, right? Are you okay with using magic numbers, or is it never for you? I think, so it depends on what your definition of a magic number is, right? Like some people will say a magic number is any number in the code base that is not explicitly like stored in a named variable, right? preferably a constant. That's not what I think about magic numbers. Magic numbers are numbers that exist in the code base that are related to each other, but the context doesn't indicate that relation, right? So if, like, let's say I have a padding, I'm doing some UI layout and I have a padding between elements and I'm doing the padding manually for some reason, and I keep adding +8, +8, +8, like all throughout that class, that 8 represents the same thing. It's the padding, right? But if there's no indication that that's what that number is, then that's what's a magic number, right? It's like, it's this +8 that's doing something magic. All of those 8s are representing the same thing, but they're all individual numbers, right? And so if I change one number, I've actually broken it because the rest of the 8s also need to change in order for the padding to be consistent. So that would be an example of a magic number, right? What I don't consider to be a magic number is like when I am doing tween animations and I need to put a duration argument in for the tween, right? In that case, if I'm not like explicitly timing multiple tweens to work in sequence such that the durations need to like match up properly, if I just need a duration for this one tween, I'll just put the duration right there in the argument list, like, because it's in its context, right? It's an argument being passed to the tween in the spot where the duration goes, right? So there's no confusion, even though that number is not like a named constant or whatever. There's no confusion about what that number represents. It's not a magic number because it's like, it's very contextually clear that that's a duration, right? So generally speaking, I'm not okay with magic numbers, but I think that my understanding of magic numbers might be different from a lot of people's understanding of magic numbers. Like, a magic number is not any number that exists that does not have a named constant. A magic number is a number that has meaning that is shared across either the entire script or across the entire code base, where you're just repeating the number every time, even though it represents the same thing, right? That would be a magic number. Godot should never have a magic number. IMO, export it. I shouldn't say never. Oh, not see new damage. Yeah, we got a new damage summary. Exports are good, yes. 2 indent or 4 indent, whatever looks best to you. Whatever looks best to you. I think I'm using four spaces as indentation. I really want to do art, but I'm bad at it. Yeah. 3D modeling, not that I'm good at that either. Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason why, like, look, I wasn't really a fan of art either, because like art is really not fun when you don't know what you're doing. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say that like learning pixel art was like really, really fun and it was super engaging. Learning pixel art was actually incredibly frustrating and incredibly tedious, and like to spend hours working on a sprite only to like end up with something that's pretty mediocre and not that great at all is not a fun feeling. And it's not an easy thing to just keep doing that over and over again and making like little bits of progress at a time. But the problem is, like, even though I didn't really enjoy doing it, I knew that I needed to get art from somewhere, and I can't just pay like a full-time artist to work on something like Gunforge or Alchemortis. And I can't use asset packs because there are too many things that I want to do with my games that I'm just not going to be able to find assets for. So my only option was just to like bite the bullet and like try to learn. But now that like I've built up some pixel art skill, it's much more enjoyable because less of my time is spent struggling with just like drawing the thing and shading the thing. Most of my time can actually be spent focused on the design of the thing and like actually bringing it to life and drawing the forms and like all that stuff. So it's a lot more fun now, but it was not fun when I first started because it was just tedious and I wasn't producing good art either, right? It takes you hours and hours and hours to do something that just looks terrible. And it's like, that's not a fun spot to be in, but that, like everything in life, is temporary. If you just keep working on it, you will get past that phase and you may start to enjoy it after that. Used to hate art, was so afraid of it, but I got over it. Yeah. Hello, Shish Iris Live. I was always confused with how to use controls in Godot, then I got one of your Udemy courses and made sense finally. Awesome, glad to hear that. I'm happy to hear that that course helped you out. Thanks for purchasing it too. It's interesting to hear you say that because your art is really good. I guess it's just another one of those examples where you have to embrace the fact that it sucks. Yeah, yeah. I use an asset pack. It's very limiting, but it does teach you to work with your limitations. Yeah, that is one argument in favor of asset packs, right? If you really, really, really don't want to do art, then having that constraint, like I'm big on having constraints, right? Like giving yourself explicit limitations is actually a great way to do things creatively. And so if you say, well, I don't want to learn art, I'm just going to choose an asset pack. What I would then recommend is like, try to use only that asset pack. Like no matter what you're trying to do in your game, only use the assets available in that asset pack. And that will require some creative solutions, right, to different problems you may have. Like you want a sprite for this thing, but that's not readily supported by the asset pack. So what do you do about that? You may cut and paste different sections of different parts of the asset pack and like try to mush them together into a new sprite. Or you may try to do like a palette swap or something on the thing to make it look different. I don't know. There's a lot of things you could do with that limitation that force you to think creatively. So yeah, that's a good idea too. Magic numbers are okay in fantasy themed game, but in a science fiction game, you need to have quantum or nano numbers instead. Oh goodness. Welcome, Christian, by the way. The obstacle is the way. That which impedes action drives action. Yeah. It sounds counterintuitive at first, right? Like, why would I want constraints? But it makes sense if you think about it a little bit, right? If you don't have any constraints, then you have almost infinite choices you could make. And that, I find that that's more limiting than having the limit. So one of the reasons why I like to use a predefined color palette and stick to that rigidly is because the question is now out of my mind of whether my art looks bad because I just chose the wrong colors, right? I've got tens of millions of colors to choose from. Maybe I just chose one of the millions that was wrong. Maybe if I chose one of the different million colors, it would be better. But if I use a color palette that I already know looks good because I've seen examples of art done with it, then that concern is completely out of my mind, right? Now it's just a matter of like, if my art looks bad, it's because I did something wrong, right? It's not because I chose the colors wrong. It's not because, same with like the restrictive canvas size, right? If I draw an item for Alchemortis and it looks weird, I don't have an option to make the art bigger or smaller. It has to fit in whatever card size I chose, right? And so if my art looks bad inside of this card size, then I did something wrong when I drew the art. I don't have the option of making it bigger or making it smaller. That concern is totally out of my mind as well. I don't have to doubt or second guess if I chose the wrong art size for it. You know what I mean? So yeah, those kinds of constraints are actually counterintuitively, they're freeing in a way, because you know that you have to work within those constraints, and all of the other million things that you could think of that could be wrong if you're just doing something completely free without constraints, those are just completely closed off as considerations. Anyway, click to close inventory is not working. Add headers. Let's add headers to all panels. Let's do this one. So here I created this new header thing for panels, which I think looks pretty cool. We got little eyeballs here, and then we've got like little spades on the side. I may change those. I don't know if spades fits the theme of the game, but anyway, I want to genericize this scene. It was just built purpose made for this combat summary window, but I want to make this something that I can just plop into a scene and call it good. You know what I mean? I think it's just as simple as saving this branch as a scene here. Let's see, scenes UI. I'll just dump it in the root UI location, I guess. Okay, so we've got a panel header. So I am going to need to Maybe we'll make this a tool script. Private string text. Let's do this. Text. Get or return text. Set text equals value. And we'll call update text here. Label. We'll call this panel header. The other cool thing about this is that it's dynamically scaling. So I can make this however long I want, and it tiles, and the eyeballs stay in the center. So that's good. We'll just say panel header in there for now. Update text. Label. Oh, I need to grab a reference to the label. Label.text is equal to text. And that should automatically support translations. So let's make this a tool script as well. Okay. I don't know if that's going to work. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Was Alchemortis in the Steam Next Fest? It was not, no. I think we're going to be targeting the next Fest that happens. We want to keep that in our back pocket until it's absolutely ready to show to a larger audience. Not quite at the, I'm still at the point where the playtests are revealing a lot of, flaws and deficiencies with the game. So I want to get as many of those ironed out as possible before we put it in the hands of a general demo audience. Look at that. UI, panel, header, combat, summary. Okay, so how am I actually setting this? Yeah, here we go. UI panel, header. Unfortunately, this is one of those cases where I'm probably just going to need to enter these manually. I think that's the most straightforward way. There we go. So I can pass the translation string into the text here, and that will show up there in whatever language it is localized to. And we can also just make sure that that works in game. What I probably should do is, UI combats, message ID, UI combat summary. Can I add, is this supported? Can I set these as the same ID? I actually don't know. I'm going to try that. No. Can I assign multiple IDs to the same string? Nope. That's okay. We'll just make those separate entries. They're the same text, but they appear in different places in that game, so I don't want to necessarily share that just in case. Because like I could see a situation where one of the strings needs to be shortened in a localized version. Maybe. Oh, I forgot to rebuild the translations. Rebuild. Anyway. So we can bring up the combat summary now. Start combat. Oh, can't start combat with alchemy open. Combat summary. Combat summary. Okay. All right. So we have a setup individual scene for panel headers. It's going to work. Hey, by the way, hello, Artem, welcome. Good to see you. That's smart. It would kill the hype if the game doesn't release shortly after. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Like, use the Next Fest as a way of getting a bunch of wish lists and then hopefully release the game within a month or two after that. I think that would be good. Yeah, still need to get more wish lists on this game. That's like my only concern now is like, I think the game is good. I think obviously there's a lot to fix, but people are really enjoying the game. And now I think the big question mark is, can we get the wish lists up to like a really good number before release? So we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see what happens. Okay, anyway. So this paused, this can go away. And what we will do is we will instantiate a panel header here. Probably going to need to add some extra margin to the top. Margin top 32. Now I have to measure this. Let's go from color to color. 18. 19. Oh, fudge. 1 pixel off. Although, maybe I shouldn't be measuring to the eyeball. Maybe I should be measuring to this part. That's 24. So, -5. 19. Yeah, that looks better to me, actually. Yeah, that looks correct. Okay, panel header. UI, panel, header, paused. That is a problem. So actually, if this ends up being a long string, these are stretching. That is not good. Let's just fix that now. Oops. So if that string ends up being long in a different language, we would not want that to happen. Okay. Excellent. What else do we have? Playtest notice. That's another one. Probably the settings menu as well. I think I'm going to redo the art for these as well. These panels. I'm still not entirely happy. I want to redo the buttons as well. So 11, and then we need this one. So let's see, margin top. All right, let's go from here to here. That is not even close to 11. I need 5 more. Okay, is that looking good? Yes. UI panel header. Playtest. Notice. I'll just call it welcome. That already looks much nicer. I think I can do more on these panels though. I think they could be a little bit more decorative. The tricky part is I don't want to make these panels too chunky because these kinds of panels are used for the tooltips and whatnot as well. What would that look like? Hold on a second. Card tooltip. If I use the panel header for the card name, that might be too chunky, but wait a minute. That might be too much. But that would be interesting. Oh my goodness. Wait, do I do this? Do I put the card name in a panel header like that, or is it too much? It might be too much. It does cover a lot more of the screen. And plus the question happens, like, what happens if the text is too long? Yeah, maybe not. I could do maybe a smaller version of that. Or I think what I should do realistically is have a different panel style for the tooltips and a different panel style for like the dialog boxes that show up. That's probably what I should do instead. Anyway, let's do the confirmation dialog now. Oh, we have the header label. Yuck. Shuck on my cob. So I need to programmatically change this because this header label will go away. Yeah. Okay, well, that's fine. This is also 11 pixels. So what does that mean? This margin container needs to have a margin top of 21, I believe, right? We go from here to here. That's 11, yeah. So I actually need a programmatic way of setting. Oh, this text is not even translated either, so we're going to get rid of this header label. Let's instead grab a reference to the private panel header. Do I need to do that? I mean, maybe I'll just make this public instead. So I need to see wherever this is used, this confirmation dialog. View owners. No owners found for confirmation dialog. That's a lie. Really? I am very positive that I'm using the confirmation dialog in multiple places. Why is this showing no owners? Really? There's a confirmation dialogue right here. Okay, well. The good news is I think it's just going to work. I don't think I need to update everywhere. I do need to translate that, though, the confirmation dialogues and stuff, but that should just pass the confirmation all the way down. Would you like to play the tutorial? Well, that's not correct. What the heck? Panel. Oh, I forgot to mark that as unique. Next Fest will help a ton. Game looks good. Demo's good. Thank you. I appreciate that. The ruler tool is super cool. Yeah. Yeah, I like the ruler. It's very useful. Abandon run. Are you sure you want to abandon the run? Yes. Okay. Oh, there's so much work to do on this game still. There's so much work to do. That looks good, though. I like the panel headers. Yeah, that's cool. And then the settings menu needs one as well. Unfortunately, I do have to go attend a meeting. So let's just make a note. Settings panel. What other panels do I have that need this? I don't... That might be the last one, actually. But anyway, work on using panel headers across the game. Okay, I'm going to have to hop off and go to this meeting, but thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here. I appreciate the support, and who knows, maybe I'll do another stream later this afternoon, so keep an eye on the Discord for those live notifications. If I don't go live, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and once again, I appreciate all of your support. Thank you for being here. It's always great to hang out with you all, and I will see you in the next one. All right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye for now.